PCA, the C is for cannon. Showed off the arm today. Got a guy at second base after, he tried to stretch it into a double. I know he's got developing to do, but like I'm looking forward to MILB TV tuning in and watching him, play defense pretty regularly this season, because that play alone just further confirms everything we hear, right, as Cubs fans from all these prospect insiders and our guy Rob Wegley internally for prospects, guys externally, Greg Huss, Greg Zumach, Brian Smith, friend of the program, those guys, right? Like his elite defense. The elite defense was shown today. And it's not just the glove, right? It's not just that range that he shows off when he covers so much ground to make a catch. Or, it's not all that either. The arm comes with it. He's got an elite arm defensively. And we saw it today. And it was really, really cool. And again, that just further, if he can do anything close to what he did in the minors last season in terms of average and what he did on the base paths and shit like that at the major league level with that defense, I'm already. I love Belly. I wouldn't be mad about Belly sticking around long term. You can always move him to first base, but son of a bitch, PCA is going to be fun to watch playing center field for the Cubs for hopefully a decade plus.
Move Belly to DH, because Mash Mervis too. He started pretty well for a guy who hasn't seen a lot yet. But yeah, Ron, I so badly want to pull and have Brian pull the highlight of him throwing to second base today, and then pull the recap episode that we talked about PCA when they gave all the grades. And I said his arm rating was way too low, because I said it on the show. PCA I've mentioned on the show plenty of times as I've watched plenty of games in South Bend. That 80 grade, I mean, it's just so warranted. I mean, that I've said on the show before, there is not one misstep from that guy, and the speed that he has he makes plays that are so difficult look so easy. And the ones that are so just outlandish are the ones that you're like, wow, like how do you even get to that ball? And he does that so well. I thought the arm rating on him was a little low. To me, he's got a better arm than they rated. I think he's at a 60 or a 65. I thought that was 5 points low. I think he's a way better thrower. He's just accurate. He doesn't have like the strongest arm, but he's accurate to all bases. And that's why something that I think that's a lost art too in today's, everybody looks when they're grading the arm on how strong it is, but he's so accurate. Whoever made these arm, the ratings didn't watch him enough to know that he does. Let me just say this. It's not the best arm I've ever seen in center field. It's not. And it probably won't be. But you know what he's really damn good with? Accuracy. He's the type of guy that like one bounce throw is he's like a scientist with it. And I'm going to say this. I watched his routes to the baseball, over in center field throughout these spring training games. Mind you, it's only been 2. I think he could be playing better. He had one route to the outfield that ended up in a triple today, I believe, that I saw. I was like, man, in South Bend, he makes that play. Because I've seen him make that play. Into the gap. He was a step away, but I think he had one step that was mistaken. And it was kind of funny because I was like, man, everyone's going to be like, there's no way he gets to that baseball. But I've watched him take that route. And I went, yeah, he probably, if you asked him, he probably would say, yeah, I should have caught that ball. Which is so funny because that was mashed into the gap. Mm-hmm. And it went over his head and he was a step or 2 away. But he took 2 wrong steps in the beginning of the route. So it's funny to me, like he's throwing highlights out there, and I think he could play better because I've seen him play better. So it's funny to like everyone's gonna throw roses his way, but I watched so much of that kid that like, and 2 in his at bat, there was one pitch he fouled back then I'm like, man, like in spring train or not in South Bend, I watched him take that ball into the gap the other way. And he would definitely tell you that, yeah, I should have hit that pitch into the gap. And he ended up fouling it back. So he could play. It's crazy. He can play better.
Yeah, and again, I think that goes back to my comment about the development, right? Like there's still some development for him in terms of facing more MLB level players. He's going to see that in Double-A, where he's probably going to start this year with Tennessee. As Scott from Iowa says here, it's going to be awesome in Principal Park this summer. Already banking on him being in Triple-A by the summertime. You know, he's got a little more developing to do, but that's okay because, like you said, he's already throwing highlights out there as an unfinished product. And I think that's what gets people excited is understanding he has that room and that potential to be better. And
they had a real interesting conversation with him too, or about him too on the telecast day about him seeing more pitches. That's definitely the next aspect of his game he's got to get better at because he swings often. Like you think I'm not on a scale of 1 to Javi, like he's definitely not that. But I mean, he definitely needs to be more selective. And I think it was JD who said it. Like that's he absolutely like that's the next point of his game to get them. I think the quote was he needs to see more pitches to see more pitches in his strike zones to where he can handle and turn and like a double into a triple. Like those are the things that he's going to be so valuable for. But it was interesting and it was good because I had forever been like, man, I wonder what – you ever watch a player and you're like, there's something about this player that he's missing, but I can't put my finger on it. And then you have like these, awesome broadcasters like JD and Book who just are so damn good at like pinpointing like how to say what they need to work on. And like for forever watching PCA, I was like, yeah, I love him, but there's something about his bat I don't like. That's what I don't like. He's just not as patient as much as he should.
Yeah. And again, that like you said, and we've hammered home I think that'll come in time with the development. And again, a reason why, there's a lot of people pining that, he's going to make a push late in the season. Maybe we see him in 23. No. You'll see him 24 at the earliest. Like they are not going to rush this kid. There's no reason for it. You want him to be a finished product or as close to it as humanly possible because we've seen the experiment, not necessarily with the Cubs, just in sports in general. Like as a Blackhawks Four Feathers podcast, co-host here for On Tap Sportsnet, i.e. the Kirby Doc situation of the last few years, where these prospects and these young players are expected to do too much early and they get brought up sooner and the pressure and they don't continue to develop the right way and they never reach their full potential with that team. Like that's a real concern. And I don't think the Cubs want that to happen. I think they truly want to see his development through the right way. And again, if he really struggles this year and they think he's a 2025 debut guy, then you bring Bellinger back on a, depending on what he does, or you find another, 1 year stopgap for center field.
Brennan Davis play it next year.
Yeah. Maybe it's Brennan Davis for a year if Ian Happ moves on, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of, again, there's a reason they have guys here is to see that through and obviously to get there at some point.
And Ron, real quick to add to that, he's only 20 years old.
Yeah, he's a baby.
He's growing into his body still.
He can't even legally drink alcohol in this country.
Right.
Like
I'm sure he does, but
yeah, let's neither here nor there. But he still has face acne. Like let's calm down here, folks. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be a 22-year-old superstar at some point.